guys, what is going on, Blossom back, and welcome back to another episode of Top Drives, and oh god, today we're doing a pack review, okay? We're doing a pack review of the heavy metal carbon fiber. That is the newest tag that's in Top Drives right now, and I mean, I'm only answering one question today, honestly. The honest question is it a good pack or is it a bad pack? The honest question is heavy metal worse or slightly better than horror show? Because this is in great contention for being one of the absolute worst tags in the entire game and that the game has ever seen. It's just a compilation of garbage. It's so shit. I mean, here, I'll have a look at the cars that I have, right? I have a few of these heavy metal cars fully upgraded, and that's mainly because I'm an ultra hoarder and collector. I want to upgrade and max out every single ultra in the game, which I guess pays some dividends when, you know, there's a collection of garbage in a tag like this and you are forced to use these cars. But let's see how useful these cars actually are. We'll start with the Lincoln Navigator concept from Pacific Coast Highway. This car is over a year old, right? I've owned it for 403 days and I've used it once in my entire time I've used this car. Let's look at some other stuff. The Escalade ESV, this one's relatively new because it's American overdrive. 45 days, I've raced it 0 times. Let's look at some of the older stuff. Maybe the Bentley Azure. This has been in the game, great exhibitions, a very old car. I've owned it for 769 days. I've raced it only 86 times, and out of the 86 races, it only has a 50% win ratio. Like, that is not what you want to see as a statistic in your car. Mulsanne Design Series, right? 79% win ratio is a little bit better, but I don't use it that often. 112 races in 879 days. That's like using the car like less than once a week. The GMC Yukon Denali, this is a prize car, 16 races, 50% win ratio. Pathfinder, 74 races in 995 days. This is a conglomeration, if that even is a word. Conglomeration. I don't know if that's a word, but this is just a compilation of just absolute garbage. The Mulsanne Grand Convertible, 69 races in 761 days. Got a really funny story about the Mulsanne, actually. This is the second one that I had to fully upgrade. The first ever Mulsanne that I fully upgraded was so bad that I was so appalled by how bad how it performed in the game, I actually sold it. Because I sold it out of just pure rage. I was like, wow, this car is terrible. It doesn't win anything. This was when I was like pretty novice. Like, I was a bit of a novice of Top Drive, so I was like, oh, okay, like I kind of trusted the RQ system. I kind of trusted that, oh, okay, maybe it might be decent on the drags because it's got a super high top speed, all that kind of stuff. It's just all fake. Like, it's just terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Let's look at some other cars. Outlander PHEV, I feel like I might have used it at some point. 82 handling, 9, not even 9 races, 100% win ratio, but 9 races. How about this one, JPT, 55 races in 934 days. These are cars that literally do not get any use, and you know, if they don't get any use because they are really bad. They're not useful, and only in a situation like this where you are literally forced to use these cars would you use them. If not, you wouldn't use them. The S65 is alright. I think this one is actually decent. 32 races. I mean, that's not a lot of races. 88% win ratio, but the win ratio is pretty decent. 35 races, 80%. Okay, so I don't use that too much. I think I have more races in the Escalade than I do in those Mercs. 83 races and 75 win percentage. Yeah, I mean, I use it 2 times a day. The Escalade's cool, and it's one of the few shining lights in a tag that is so bad. And it's funny because obviously, like, I need to compare this to Horror Show. And if I remember correctly, Horror Show didn't have a lot. Like, it was like 6 epics, and some of them include like the Spiker C8 Preliator, I believe the C12 Zagato, maybe the C8 Spider were in it. So all those cars were in it. If I remember, for the legendaries, the Veneno was in it. I don't have the Veneno. The Panamera was in it as well. I don't have the Panamera. This was part of Horror Show, Panamera Turbo. The Veneno was part of Horror Show as well. So yeah, all those cars, and I kind of just want to compare if that's worse or better. But the thing is, when I go into my YouTube channel, I realize that I actually don't have any content surrounding Horror Show. I don't have a pack review on Horror Show, which makes sense because Horror Show came out, I think at the end of the year, right, or the start of 2021, end of 2020, and that was when I was on like my 3-week holiday in the UK and stuff. So I wasn't really posting much. And Horror Show was honestly content that I just kind of wanted to just skip because it was so bad. But now I can't really compare this new heavy metal tag to Horror Show to see like if I rate it like a bunch of cars in Horror Show and hot garbage or anything like that. But anyway, guys, obviously the pack in question today is, as you can see, limited, right? Heavy metal. You gotta open these packs right now. If you really want to hurt yourself that badly, you can. But let's get into it. How bad is this pack actually? All right, so here we go. Yep, shitty metal, tier list, not heavy metal. We're not gonna call it that. Obviously with 5 ranks as usual. Highly versatile, requires some criteria. Severely underperforming, and bro, they made it the only option. Now, if you are an astute viewer of this series, you might know that usually the 4th tier is called only needed for a special tag challenge, like only required for a special tag challenge. But then again, I can't really use that naming because all these cars are part of a special tag challenge. I think that only works a little bit better if I'm reviewing a pack for a tri-series or something like that. Anyway, let's get into it. We start with the Bentleys, right? So the Bentley is there, bro, they made it the only option. Mulsanne, okay. Yeah, every single Bentley that you see here, they all kind of carry the same energy, right? Like, they are all really heavy cars, which already emits them for anything, you know, twisty related, like a twisty road or a G-force, a car park, or a slalom. And also they don't handle very well, so that kind of adds into the fact that they're also really heavy. So the fact that they don't handle very well isn't going to be your first choice for, like, you know, city streets medium or a hairpin road or indoor karting or karting circuit or anything like that. And the only shining light for these Bentleys is that they're all medium ground clearance and they all have very high top speeds. But the problem is, you know, I've said this so many times, if you are a car with a high top speed, that doesn't really mean anything outside of maybe just a one-trick test bowl pony. And obviously these cars aren't even the best for the test bowl. They're good for the test bowl because they're able to go over 190 miles per hour for some of these cars when you fully upgrade them. But that doesn't make them the best option. If you put in a Fiji water car into the mix, and the Fiji water car is going to beat all of them, right? But obviously, like, if you put it in terms of like UK saloons, then maybe you might get some use out of the Bentleys in one track set out of like over 100 track sets in top drives. Still not a good way to talk about the cars. And the Mulsannes, you know, when you have a high top speed, you need MRA to back it up. You need MRA to back it up. That will make you a great dragster. And none of the Bentleys have good MRA, right? The only Bentley that actually has decent MRA is the Bentley Brooklands. The Bentley Brooklands has about 84 MRA, according to Top Drive's Club. It's got a high top speed. Also, the one thing that the Brooklands does bring to the table is that it's a medium ground clearance coupe. Most of these cars are classified as saloons. The Mulsanne Blue Train, the design series, the Mulsanne, right? But obviously the Mulsanne Grand Convertible, that's not a saloon, obviously. I mean, it doesn't have a freaking roof. But, you know, what I'm saying is that the Brooklands has that small niche of being a medium ground clearance two-door coupe. It has a little bit of MRA, more than its brothers and sisters, and I would say it requires some criteria. It's the only one that kind of stands out, and ironically, the Brooklands is the only one of the Bentleys from heavy metal I actually do not own. All the other Bentleys you see down here, I have them fully upgraded. The Brooklands, I do not. And the problem with the Brooklands is, although it's a medium ground clearance coupe, which is, you know, cool, it's not really often where you get a coupe event where it requires, you know, 5 times city streets. And if you find yourself in an event where you can only use coupes and you need a medium ground clearance car, and if you have the RQ to work with, the first car that comes to my mind is a Cadillac ATS-V. Can't really compare those two together. One's an Epic, an American. The other is, you know, a cheap ultra and British. But I digress. Moving on to the Escalades. Again, it's a very same situation. They're all really heavy. I mean, it goes without saying every single car here is super heavy. It's called heavy metal, for crying out loud, right? The Escalade ESV starts us off, and yeah, they made it the only option. The ESV, again, they made it the only option. The IQ is fantastic, though. That's highly versatile. That's like the best ocean beach slalom car in the game. Fantastic rallycross small circuit car. Fantastic rallycross medium, I believe it was. It's good. It's a great car. And also, you know, we talked about it already. It's going to be a future Blossom choice. It is one of the few shining lights of American Overdrive as well. In a general sense, it is a very, very useful car. Also a great dragster. So that will definitely be highly versatile. Now, moving on to Cadillac XT6, and that's going to be versatile. And the main reason why I'm putting it in versatile is because out of all the all-surface tire ultras in the game, the XT6 is the cream of the crop now. It has among the highest handling. I think the only one that has a higher handling than the XT6 is one of the Infinities, which is 77 stock, 85 when you fully upgrade it. The XT6 is 84 when you have it fully upgraded, which puts it one handling more than the Pontiac GX. My brain is farting. The all surface Pontiac, right? So yeah, it's a good one. The XT6 is a decent one. I can see it gets some value just because it handles better than the rest of its competition. The Silverado as well, I would say, is versatile. Mainly because it's four-wheel drive off-road tires, right? So it can bring more value to the table. And I'm actually really annoyed that the Silverado is even in this tag, because it's going to destroy the competition, to put it simply, right? And I'll talk about this in another rant video about heavy metal. Heavy metal will be here for quite some time, so I can make that video later on. But it's really annoying because, like, you put this one off-road tire car and it's gonna destroy the competition in the challenges. Like, the entire point of having all these all-surface tire cars in a tag is so people can use them, right? I feel like all-surface tire, okay, some of the most useless niches in top drives, in my opinion, is if you are an all-surface tire car that, you know, you're not a specialist in any way, so you're not like a G63 or a Cadillac IQ or anything like that, and also rear-wheel drive standard. And I feel like the only time that rear-wheel drive standard and all-surface tire cars get use is when they're the only options to use. And if you took away the Silverado, then you'd be in a situation where all-surface tire cars are the only options you can use. And at least in a sense, then you'll be in a situation where, oh, okay, this car is useless, has been useless for me for the last, you know, years since I unpacked it. Like, for example, the JPT Infinity has been useless for me for the last 2 years, but at least finally now there's a challenge for me to use it. But you immediately put in a car like the Silverado off-road tires, and suddenly if you own like 1, 2, or even 3 Silverados, you won't even be touching the all-surface tire cars anymore. You'd just be using the Silverado where you can. And the only time you would use the all-surface tire cars is if the majority of the tracks that's in the challenge, for example, is gravel, 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 or ocean beach slalom or anything like that. Ocean beach slalom wet. Now moving on, Ford F-150. Bro, they made it the only option. This car has been in the game since American Frontier. I believe. American Frontier? No, Pacific Coast Highway. Pacific Coast Highway. And yeah, I've not used it at all. I have it in my garage, I believe, but I don't think I've ever upgraded. I've never used it. I think I have it upgraded. Maybe we can check in my garage. Actually, we'll check. Is it in there? It's the F-150. You know, it's bad when I don't even know that I own it, right? 150. Yeah, you're there. Okay, what's the usage at 9? 9 races in over a year. 9 races. Dude, come on, man. These cars don't get any use. GMC Sierra, bro, they only made it the only option. I mean, that thing has been in my fuse pile for a really long time. I'm gonna upgrade it, you know, slowly but surely. Yukon Denali. Now, this one I think is a little bit older, so I might have a little bit more use in my garage, because this is one of the OGs. No, not even. This car was not part of any update. It wasn't part of American Dream, American Frontier. This has been in the game since, I believe, the start. And I've only raced it 19 times, 42% win ratio. Are you kidding me? That's crazy. That's actually crazy. I love this car in real life. But, yeah, the numbers speak for themselves. I do not use it. The Infiniti QX80 all-wheel drive is up next. I'm going to put that in severely underperforming. And the only reason why I put it there is because it's a decent JPT dragster, right? So we'll go back to my garage over here. If we go into JPT, right, so Japan Pro Tour, where is Japan Pro Tour? How old is this update? It's pretty old if I have to scroll all the way down. And then we go into Ultra Rear, and we go into all surface tires. I still don't know where tires are after all these years of playing the game. Car attributes, all surface. We go into all cars. We sort by 0 to 60, ascending. It should be the lowest. Yeah, it's the lowest by quite some margin, 4.7. So it's got some niche into it, right? It's out of all the cars that are in this niche, it has some use to it. That doesn't make it, you know, a very useful car, but I'll put it above the bottom, you know. Moving on to the Lincolns. I mean, these are just terrible. I do not use them, as you have seen in my video, in my garage. And moving on to the AMG S65. It's the only ultra rare which it's the only ultra that I want to get, you know, from this entire pack. I would say that from this entire pack, I only want maybe the XT6 because I don't have it, the Mercedes, and maybe the IQ, so maybe 3, right? The S65 is great. 90 MRA. It's a great Ocean City Streets car. It's a decent dragster as well. The only problem with the AMG S65 is that it's limited, so it's 155 for a top speed. And also, when it comes to the saloon niche, if you don't need to use a medium ground clearance car and you're using 63 RQ, might as well just add one to that, make it 64, and use the BMW M5. Which is a way better dragster. So the AMG S65 really only comes into its own alone, when medium ground clearance is taken into account, or the tracks that is like ocean, city streets, or anything like that. But still, 90 MRA, a low 0 to 60, it's a pretty decent car. I'll put it in versatile. Moving on is the Mercedes-Benz GL350. That's going to be the only option. Then the Mercedes S65 AMG. I'm going to put that requires in some criteria. It's basically the AMG S65, but just a little bit worse. And that's the only thing. It's got a little lower of a 0 to 60, but the S65 has a better MRA count. I think this is like 87 and this is 90. So it is relatively close between both cars. And the S65 AMG from 2006 is one of my favorite. It has some of my favorite Mercedes rims ever made, like those alongside the monoblock Mercedes rims that you see on like the classic like W126s and 124s. Those are among my favorite rims. Well, honestly, the rims that are on the S65 AMG, those rims I'm actually contemplating on putting on my own car. You know, even though it's not an S-Class, it's an E-Class, but I feel like it might just work. Those are good looking rims. But anyway, completely besides the point. Moving on to the Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV. Again, you know, it handles okay, so I'm going to put it like slightly above the pack. It's one of the few ultra rares that kind of, you know, go above 74 handling stock. But as you've seen in my own garage, I'm not used to the lot, you know, like in over a year, I've only used it like, what was it, 19 times on the Outlander. Pathfinder, again, it's just way past its prime. There was a time where I could see some use in the Pathfinder when there weren't a lot of, you know, Japanese all-surface tire cars in the game before the time of JPT or even any Japanese update, for example. The Pathfinder was okay back then as a, you know, RQ Saver all-surface tire option because it handled pretty well as well for an RQ50, a low RQ ultra rare. But it's past its prime, honestly. There are better options to use now, and I'm going to put it in Pro. They only made it the only option. Last but not least, the Volvo V90 all-wheel drive. I'm going to put it at the bottom as well. Now, moving on to the Epics. We start off with the Audi is garbage. The SQ7 is a little bit better. I'll put it in like requires some criteria. It handles well, but it's really heavy and it tends to underperform. It's not even the best Audi, right? It's not even the best diesel Audi as well. If I go into Audi right now, okay, for some reason no cars are showing up because it's still filtered by Ultra and all that. So we go here and then we go to all surface. So one good thing to note about this Audi SQ7 is that it's classified as diesel, right? So I think there are three. I think this is the diesel one as well. That's diesel and this is diesel. Yes. The only issue is it's very heavy. It comes in at 2,345 kilograms. The SQ5 is slightly lighter. So I remember I think it was an event where it was like a snow situation and I didn't own the SQ5, but I owned the SQ7 and I was like, oh wow, because I was cursed for the longest time not owning the SQ5. There was a time where the diesel meta was just the SQ5 for the twisty off-road stuff and the Bentley Bentayga for the drags before the Bentayga got nerfed. Never owned the SQ5 in its prime, but then I got the SQ7 and I was like, oh yeah, maybe this might be the SQ5 now. It's a snow event, but and when I put this against the SQ5 in the diesel snow event, it lost every single time. And I remember being very, very disappointed with this car, but it makes sense because this car is heavier than the SQ5. It handles less than the SQ5, and if you are in a drag scenario, you want to use the SQ8 because it's got a lower 0 to 60. So the SQ7 kind of sits in between these two cars in my opinion. It doesn't have the same handling as the SQ5, doesn't have the same handling 0 to 60 of the SQ8. So because of that, I would say it requires some criteria. I don't think it's terrible, but it does falter behind its competition, and it will never be a first choice option if you have every epic Audi all surface, which honestly isn't even that amazing of a niche. Now moving on are the Bentleys, and oh god, the Continental is trash. Continentals are trash. I wouldn't be surprised if these two cars ends up being like cars that you must need in the challenge, mainly because the moment they put in like, you know, a test bowl, dry test bowl, doesn't even need to be dry test bowl, the moment they put in any kind of test bowl in this challenge, the Bentleys, you're gonna need them, right? Because, you know, the Mercedes, they don't have top speed, and maybe I can foresee like maybe the final level you might go up against like a fully upgraded like Bentley Mulsanne or a Bentley Brooklands or something like that, and you kind of need one of these epics to kind of edge it out, or maybe some of the legends. I don't know, man, but you know, outside of the challenge, like everything else, garbage, just garbage. The 740 long wheelbase X-Drive, yeah, severely underperforming. Maybe requires some criteria. Let's see how it handles in terms of handling, right? So, pun intended, by the way. Car attributes, standard, four-wheel drive. Let's look at Epic. For some reason, it's all surface. Standard, and then we have all-wheel drive. Where is all-wheel drive? There we go. Epic, yep, standard all-wheel drive. Okay. Again, it has 76, right? I think that's a car of 76. Yeah, 76. 4.9 is very heavy, but you know, like again, this is heavy metal. I guess it's not too bad on paper. It brings the same stats as the RLX, but the RLX is just slightly lighter. It looks better on paper compared to the superb hatchback. Again, I don't have Top Drive's records to come and assist me, but I do know that it will not perform better than the Cadillac CT6, right? Or the Jaguar I-Pace, or the DS Numero 9, or the Hyundai Ioniq. It requires some criteria. I would say it requires some criteria. I wouldn't put it any higher than that. X5 and X6. Yeah, X5 is terrible. X6 is severely underperforming. 300cc Final Edition is severely underperforming. I would say as an ultra rare, you know, it might be a pretty good car, but the fact that that thing is, you know, 15 ultras to upgrade, you know, the same price as like a Corvette C8 from the same update, just to give like a very vague example. 300C is not going to get you a lot of value. Like, the only good thing about it is that, you know, it's 91 MRA, you know, medium ground clearance. It might be like a slightly upgraded version of the AMG S65 when you think about it. Actually, yeah, remind me one day to put these two cars together. I feel like if this was an ultra rare, it might be pretty good, you know? It might be great competition for the things like the S65, but honestly, yeah, 2 tiers separate these two cars. They're basically the same thing. High MRA, medium ground clearance saloons that are really heavy with low 0 to 60, the same 0 to 60s. But the problem is, one is just so much more of a task to upgrade, right? One only requires 15 supers, the other requires 15 ultras, and only 2 RQs splitting those two cars. This is where balancing the top drives is just all over the place. It's so bad. Dodge Durango SRT is up next. I'm gonna say requires some criteria. At one point, it was like the best American all-surface tire car in the game. But now you have the Cadillac Escalade IQ. No, not the IQ, but the Cadillac Escalade, I think it's like the Escalade V, right? Which is a better dragster than the Durango. So all the Durango has now is like 87 handling, which makes it a decent handling American all-surface tire car. But you probably won't use it too often. I do feel bad if you were one of the few that drag spec the Durango. Back then, I could see the logic in drag specking the Durango, but now the Escalade, there's no reason to drag spec the Durango anymore. F-150 Raptor, again, another car way past its prime. I want to put it and just require some criteria. It's never going to be your first choice as it used to be anymore. It used to be Blossom choice once upon a time, but now I would say it's like a very low, require some criteria, very high, severely underperforming. Aviator's terrible. Volvo XC90 is terrible. Mercedes AMG GLS 63, I would say is severely underperforming. It's got a decent 0 to 60, but you would still use a G63 or even an Escalade V. Then moving on to the legendary, it's a Continental 24. I'll give it versatile. It's one of like 2 Bentleys that are capable of having a high top speed and a combination of good MRA. It's got like 90 MRA, you know. I feel like it's a little bit past its prime, but when it comes to Bentley events, which we don't even see that often anymore, the 24, the Deadpool Bentley as I like to call it, it's one of the better ones. The GT3R severely underperforms. The Continental GT convertible is terrible. The X6, we'll move on to the SUVs a bit. The Dakara, I would say, requires some criteria. It's along the lines of the F-150 Raptor. I feel like these two cars at one point were, you know, decent. The Raptor at one point was really good. The Dakara at one point was decent because it had a high top speed. The MRA was good. The handling was pretty good too. But the issue is, now that I own a Dakara, I can tell you right now that although there is value in maxing it out, the biggest hurdle for the Dakara is just maxing it out. They're just better options to use. And, you know, you wouldn't want to upgrade and fully upgrade like 15 epics for a fully upgraded ATRQ car. X6M as well, you know, at most requires a little bit of criteria. It handles all right, it's got a low 0 to 60. The AMG GT 4-door coupe, I would say, is versatile. You know, it has decent handling. It is the best handling car from this entire tag. Not a single car from heavy metal gets more than 89 handling. Not a single car even has 87 handling. Only one car has 88, which is the AMG GT4. And then second place goes to 86 handling, which is the Continental 24, and a host of other cars maybe. And then last but not least is the Panamera, and that is just, yeah, severely underperforms. It's a terrible pack. It's a terrible, terrible, terrible pack. And I don't know why anybody in their right mind would open it. Honestly, the prizes are not even worth it. Which is a sigh of relief, because imagine if the prizes were actually good and you were forced to upgrade crap to get it. Like, that would really suck. Like, the Epic is a terrible prize car. It's a four-wheel drive off-roader, yes, but you know, it's garbage handling. And the prize car, the main prize car for heavy metal is the off-road Skoda. Which is a fantastic car in general. It might be useful in ENW events for sure. It'll be useful in multiplayer events, but it will never be useful in clubs, and that's because clubs will never have 5 times Skoda, 5 times Czech Republic, 5 times ENW. Like, it's got all the older tags. I mean, all the newer tags, and clubs only has the older tags, so it's not going to be a cash cow by any means as well. But anyway, guys, that's gonna be it. That's my personal opinion on heavy metal. It's freaking terrible. Only one car deserves the highest rank. I'll bestow the second highest rank to 5 cars, and everything else is just, it's a crapshoot, man. It's bad. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys have a great day. Please don't open this. Save yourself some money, save yourself some sanity, and tell Hutch that we don't want this shit again, okay? I thought horror show was pretty clear, but I guess it wasn't. Hope you guys have a great day, man. Stay safe, wash your hands, and blossom out. Peace.
Bro, this song just makes me so happy.
Me too.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Sit back, relax in my Bonneville Pontiac.